plug my headset in. No, and I'll forget something. No, and I forget something. I forgot to plug my headset in. Always something. Hi, how's it going? We're getting started here in just a minute. Hey.
I'm here.
Alrighty.
I'll have to mute myself for just a second, but I'm here. I'll be listening.
Okay, alright. All those joining, give us just a minute. We're getting everything, and I'm doing some shares here, and then I'll be with y'all in just a minute. And send this stuff out so everybody knows we're on live. Hope everybody's having a good evening. We're going to continue our discussion tonight about did Jesus warn us that Yahweh was the devil? We've been working on this for quite a while and doing a lot of research. I've been researching about 10 years, and we wanted to bring the information that we've found to all the believers because we think it's real important. I'm going to see if I can pull this up on the monitor to kind of give me some help here. Y'all will see a bunch of flashing for a minute. If I can find my file. Okay. Waiting for it to load. Oh. Can you see that okay? Can everybody see the screen okay?
I can see it.
Okay, good. If anybody'd like to come up and join us with the discussion tonight, you feel free to. Have you seen Eileen yet? Let me see if she's on.
Not yet, no.
I sent her a thing letting her know we were going live.
And they're about the letter J.
Oh, yeah. I'm sure a lot of people will say stuff about the letter J. The letter J was changed. I'm aware of that. Most people today still call him Jesus. The original word was Jesus. Isesusus in Greek. So that's just so everybody kind of knows who we're talking about, because not everybody knows all these other names that he's called by. Like you've got Yhwh, Yeshua, got all these different names floating around now, but I still just use Jesus because it's easy. Everybody knows who you're talking about when you say that word. I'm not caught up on the word. I did tons of word study. There's actually only one person in the entire scriptures of the Old Testament that's described as a dragon. And most people probably be really surprised to know who that is. The one person we have in there that is called, or not really called a dragon, but described as a dragon, is actually the Old Testament deity that most know as the Tetragrammaton, Yhwh. And we know in Revelation 12:9 it says, "And the great dragon was thrown down, that ancient serpent who's called the devil, and the deceiver of the whole world. He was thrown down to earth, and his angels were thrown down with him." Now when we go read 2 Samuel 22 or Psalms 18, we're going to see much the same description as we see Revelation with the dragon. Because we're told that smoke went up from his nostrils or his snout. He had devouring fire from his mouth. Glowing coals flamed forth from him. We're told that he bent or perverted the heavens and came down in a thick darkness and was wrapped with lightning. That sounds very much like a dragon to me. Daisy,
Right.
house.
Did you bring up the? Sorry, I'm just now here. Did you bring up the 2 Samuel ones with where it describes him with the coals burning in his mouth, smoke from his nostrils?
Yeah, I'm going to see if I can get that on the screen. I was reading it, but I don't know if I can get it where they can see it. Okay, let me see if I can. We're going to try. I'm going to skid us over for a minute. Okay. There's your description there. Is that big enough? I don't know if I can get it any bigger.
You can kind of see it. Well, yeah. There you go. You can see it now.
Okay. It says this is when David is calling upon the Lord in 2 Samuel 22. He says, in my distress, I called upon the Lord, or Yhwh, or Yhwh, or Yahweh, whatever you want to put his name as, to my God. From the temple he heard my voice, and my cry came to his ears. Then the earth reeled and rocked. Foundations of the heaven trembled and quaked, because he was angry. Smoke went up from his nostrils, a devouring fire from his mouth. Glowing coals flamed forth from him. He bowed or bent the heavens, came down in thick darkness was under his feet. He rode a cherub and flew. He was seen on the wings of the wind. He made darkness around him his canopy, thick clouds, a gathering of water. Out of the brightness before him coals fire flamed forth. And the Lord thundered from heaven. From the Most High uttered his voice. And he sent out arrows and scattered them, lightning and routed them. Then the channels of the sea were seen, and the foundations of the world were laid bare. At his rebuke, the Lord, at his blast of his breath of his nostrils, he sent from on high, he took me, he drew me out of many waters. That is our description of the Lord that everybody worships in the Old Testament. It's not something that we would think of when we first see, when you first think of the Lord. You're not going to think of some dragon, but that's how he's described.
Yeah, it's not just there, though. It's many places.
It's many places in the text that he's described that way. When you read it in Hebrew, It's even worse, because it said he was like cast out and made to go on foot in Hebrew. They've kind of done a disservice to everybody, because they didn't translate everything exactly like it could have been translated or should have been translated. I feel like I'm stumbling around here, but I'm just trying to kind of get some time for people to get in and be listening.
I would even just put it back on when you have that topic sitting there. When people come in, that's going to draw them in to want to talk about it more.
Yeah,
and
I think so.
Then you can jump into some of these things too.
It's harder for me to read it when it's on that little screen too. Y'all can't tell, can you? I'm straining to see the letters.
You're doing good. You're doing good.
I like it this way because I have a hard time seeing too.
Yeah.
I can see
It's
them.
fine. I can see it now.
Yeah.
Okay. Here we have another scripture that I want to look at. Zephaniah 3:8. Therefore wait for me, declares Yahweh, until the day I rise up for plunder. Plunder? Think about that word, plunder. That's booty or prey. For my judgment is to gather the nations. And that word in Hebrew is goim, which means all non-Judeans. To assemble rains, to pour out on them my rage, all my burning wrath, and by and by the fire of my jealousy all the earth shall be consumed. Now, is that what y'all think about when you think of the wrath coming? It's like, it says the fire of his jealousy. I mean,
Our Father's not jealous.
our Father in heaven's not jealous of anything. He doesn't have any need to be jealous of anything.
No, exactly.
We've got this perception, and we've been told since the time we were toddlers that the Old Testament deity is Father in heaven. And I don't think he is, and I think Jesus warned us. That's what we're going to talk about tonight.
Good.
We have other scriptures about him where it's described, like in Ezekiel 13:13. Therefore, thus says Master Yahweh, I shall break down a stormy wind in my wrath, and a flooding rain in my displeasure, and great hailstones in my wrath to consume. So he's also described many times like a storm, not only a dragon, but a storm. Like in Jeremiah 23:19 and 20. See, a storm from Yahweh shall go forth in a rage, a whirling storm. It whirls on the head of the wrong. The displeasure of Yahweh shall not turn back until he has done and established the purpose of his heart. In the latter days you shall understand it perfectly. So he's even telling us in the last days we'll understand this.
Yep.
And then if you compare that, which actually parable means compare in Greek, if y'all see anybody that's coming in that's, just go ahead and invite them up.
Sunshine is here, but I can't figure out how. I don't know. Maybe I can't.
Hit the little guest button, and you should be able to see people, and then just hit invite. And I think you can also hit the button on the screen that says invite.
Okay, I see.
Either way, because when I'm reading this, I won't be able to see all the names flipping by.
Yeah.
But we would compare this, it's like Matthew 7:24 and 26. Therefore, everyone who hears these words of mine and does them shall be like the wise man who built his house on the rock. The rains came down, and the floods came, and the winds blew and beat on the house, and it did not fall, for it was founded on the rock. And everyone who hears these words of mine and does not do them shall be like the foolish man who built his house on the sand. And the rain came down, and the floods came down, and the winds blew, and they beat on that house, and it fell, and great was its fall. So we have Yahweh in the Ezekiel and Jeremiah quoted being described as a storm, and then you have Jesus telling us this. This is what he meant by parables. Parable came from the Latin word parabola, means to compare. So every time we hear him say, I tell you a parable, you can literally say, compare this, compare this. Compare this to what? The only text that these people had that he was talking to was the Old Testament. There was no New Testament yet. So he's saying compare it to what you know, what you've learned. And also we're told that he spoke not unless it was in parable. So anything else he did also can be a comparison. Other words he said, whether he said a parable or not. Because they made sure to let us know that too. Is this okay with y'all, guys? This is kind of what I decided to do for just a starter.
No, absolutely, yeah.
While people are coming in, just kind of talk about some of it. And we have indicators that tell us that the Old Testament stuff was not his. One of those is when he's mentioning the law, because he tells us, he said, like he uses words like in John 8:17, in your law it is written, of the testimony of two is it is true. He always uses the pronouns that put things outside of him. They're not his. If it were his laws, he would have said, in my laws, in there, in the Old Testament, on the testimony of two people, something is true. He might not use Old Testament because they didn't have that word, but you know what I mean. He would have probably said, you've heard in Deuteronomy, or Moses told you, or something like that. But he didn't say that. He said, in your law, it is written that the testimony of two people is true. Okay? Then like in John 10:34, Jesus answered them, is it not written in your law, I said ye are gods? And he's quoting back, but he's telling them your law. He makes sure he says that word. And I checked those, and they're accurate. Luke 2:22. And then the time came for their purification according to the law of Moses. Again, there's the pronouns telling you that it's talking about somebody else's, not his. Luke 2:39. And when they had performed everything according to the law of the Lord, is what he said, not according to his law or father's law. And we know when he talked about his father, he always said, he called him Father. And there's one other time when he's praying in the garden, he calls him Abba Father. Luke 15:25, but the word that is written in their law must be fulfilled. They hated me without a cause. Well, if this was his father in the Old Testament, why would these people that were worshiping his father hate him without a cause? Makes no sense.
No.
Let's see. And he also made it very clear that an oath system is from the evil one. And we know, like Deuteronomy 6:13, fear Yahweh your Elohim and serve him, swear by his name. That means to swear an oath. But then we have Jesus telling us, again, you have heard it said to those of old, you shall not swear falsely, but shall perform to the Lord what you have sworn. But I say to you, do not take an oath at all. He's completely undoing that. Either by heaven, for it is the throne of God, nor by earth, nor by his footstool, nor by Jerusalem, for it is the city of the great King. And do not take an oath by your head, for you cannot make one hair white or black. Let what you say simply be yes and no. Anything more is from the evil one. So he's telling you it's from the evil one when you swear an oath.
Right, and that's pretty direct, too.
That's very direct.
Very direct.
Very much so direct. Let's see, what else have I got on here? We have multiple things that he does that just, it should make people stop and think. But I'm not sure they do. It's like, we have him like literally saying he creates evil. You know, that's not from Father.
Yeah,
I think this boils down to learning the nature of who Jesus is, who the Father is, because people don't realize it. It's like he told people to lie, and I could give you examples. That's Exodus 3:18, 1 Samuel 16:2. He lied in Genesis 2:17, and in 2 Samuel 7:13. He rewarded people that lied in Exodus 1:15 through 20. He sent serpents to bite and kill people in Numbers 21:6. He ordered men to become drunken in Jeremiah 25:27. And I want to say to people that are listening, I'm not here to deconstruct like a lot of these channels say they are, and they're trying to just wipe out the entire thing altogether. I'm telling you that the only person in that book that had the true words of the Father was Jesus. Everything else, you don't even need it, really. But it's like, we've been handed something and told that it goes together, and it didn't. Our Father's loving and kind. He loves every one of us. He doesn't wish that anybody be hurt. The only reason we have all these evil things here is because we're not in Father's world. He told us we were in the world below. And in Greek, that word for below is kato, and it means the underworld. We're literally not in Father's world. He came to help us get out of here. that's the hardest thing I think sometimes to realize. It's like, I mean, we want to grasp everything. We want everything to be wonderful and beautiful. We make all these plans. We go to school. We get degrees. We get married. We do all these wonderful things, and we want our life to be happy and fulfilled and wonderful and everything. And it's like, but yet it's not. And when sorrow hits and suffering, we're like everybody's mad at God. It's like they're blaming God. It's like we're not in Father's world. We got mosquitoes that bite. We have chiggers that bite you. You can go on vacation. You can fall down a mountainside and break your back and be a cripple the rest of your life. You can get in a car wreck and be a cripple the rest of your life. You can get cancer and suffer for a year and then finally pass away. We're just not in Father's world. These things would not happen in Father's world. And I know that's hard for people because suffering is one of the biggest things that drives people away. It was extremely hard for me. I worked as an RN in a trauma center, and I used to stand on the side of the bed and go, oh my gosh, why? Why, why, why? I'd hate to know how many times I asked myself why. Beautiful young person wrapped around an oak tree, face distorted for the rest of their life with a brain injury or something like that, and you're going, I'm just not believing this. Why, Father? Why do you let this happen? This is not his world. Jesus told us that. He said, if this were my world, they wouldn't be able to unalive me. It's like I would have my armies here and they would fight, but this is not my world. I'm just here to save. He was here to save us. For some reason, we're captive here, and I don't have all the answers. I'm just sharing what I have found. I mean, if anybody else has an answer as to how we got trapped here, I would love to hear it. Because I've racked my brain and searched the scriptures, but I do know we are the captives he came to free. We are not in Father's world. Y'all want to add anything to what I've said so far? Because I've been talking quite a while.
No, it's
You're doing
fine.
good.
I'm letting you
You're just
talk
putting all
because
the
I
hands
want
up there.
somebody to try to come up. I want somebody to try to talk.
Yeah, if anybody would like to come up, we've already covered quite a bit of material. But I just wanted to kind of...
that you'd be up in a bit.
Who?
Sunshine.
I think.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
Good. Good. But if anybody else would like to join us and ask questions
Sally's in here.
or got anything to add,
Sally's in the comments.
I just invited her.
Okay.
Trying to see who else is in here, if I can tell. It's hard to do this and look at everything at the same
there's
time.
only 4. It says there's only 4 people.
Oh, is there only 4 in here? I'm showing
8.
7.
Oh, what does yours say?
7.
Mine says
7.
4.
7 now.
Yeah.
I must be blocked from some of them.
No.
That's fine.
This is a different kind of app. It's like if people are used to strolling through, listening for a while, and then going on to another one. And, it's kind of like hit or miss as to people coming in.
Reconstructionist. Why do you say no?
Yeah, what's the no? The answer is no.
Sally.
I don't know what he means.
Hey, Sally.
Hey,
You're getting
guys.
echo from your mic, so just mute when you aren't talking.
Okay. How do I do that? I
Sorry.
just tap on it? Tap on my
Just
picture?
tap your screen and then hit the microphone button and put the line over it.
He says Yahweh is God. Do you want to come up and talk to us, Reconstructionist?
We've all been told that. We all know what the churches are telling us.
We once believed it.
Yeah, we all believed that.
I don't know. I don't know if I don't have a thing to invite him though on here. Do you on your screen?
I don't know how to do it. Where do I go? Multiple people?
Yeah,
His option doesn't come up here.
I know.
mean,
he might
can
be having. He might
request,
have
he
his
can request.
profile private. If they've got it private, it won't come up.
Right, okay.
And
He can still request to come up if he wants to.
yeah,
talk,
you can
though.
request to come up if you want to, Reconstructionist. We can talk to you if you want to. We're not saying everybody has to believe like we do either. We're trying to share the information we found and hopefully help others go look into it. But I don't ever tell anybody what to believe.
No. She said, he said, or she.
She
he
was
says,
just giving scripture for the past 15 minutes, and I guess you didn't hear a lot of it, but we can go back through it if you like. There's a lot of scripture
if you feel like
talks
repeating it,
about
because it's
Yahweh's
very good
character.
to hear. Yeah. Galen, if you can
Yeah,
have the energy to do that.
I can give some more of the scriptures.
I'd rather him come up, though, if he's going to actually talk, and then we can have a conversation. But you're talking to somebody in the chat, and you're about to just rattle off scripture to somebody that can't really say anything.
Yeah.
I mean, it's up to you. But
Well, I guess if she starts talking.
Well,
Yeah,
there's
go
several
ahead.
scriptures I was mentioning in Reconstructionist about things that he does in the Old Testament that are not the same as what Jesus told us about the Father in the New Testament. And literally like if you look at John 6, when Jesus is speaking to the Jews, he tells them that they are of their father, the devil, and he was an unaliver from the beginning. And when you say from the beginning, he literally is saying from the Genesis. People don't realize that because you're not reading it in Greek. But it's the same
how that
word.
word is translated.
Yeah, it would be beginning or Genesis. In the beginning is Genesis. And he calls Moses the accuser, and the word for accuser is categoris, and it specifically means the Satan. Most people don't know that either.
What does it mean?
The Satan.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
The biggest things is just comparing and contrasting of things that these people knew from Torah and knew from Yahweh, and he's correcting it with the truth. There's a lot of those comparisons when he's saying things like anytime he says it is written that, or if you've heard it said, followed with whatever else, he's taken something that they knew from Torah or Yahweh and then correcting it with the Father and the truth.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, everything he said, like when he said, what are these, just misrepresentations and No, they're not misrepresentations. It's like when Jesus told us that what father would give you a serpent when you ask for a fish. That's exactly what
That's what Yahweh did. He sent out fiery serpents and it unalived many of them.
Yeah, he tells them.
And Jesus is telling us that, what kind of loving father would do that?
Yeah.
He was trying to tell them they'd been following the wrong thing. He said, it's like when he says, you've heard it said, an eye for an eye and a tooth for a tooth. I tell you it's not so.
Yeah, they knew that from Yahweh.
Yahweh always kept a Sabbath, and he told him, he said his father was still working. It's like all these comparisons, when you add them up, he's constantly comparing back and forth.
We've been studying the Bible for many, many years. This is how we got to join a Bible study.
A lot of your Bible studies are not what you think they are. They're pre-planned books to put an indoctrination in your head. You need to just listen to his words.
Jesus is Jewish and all this other nonsense.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Let me see if I had anything else to...
Well, and it's pretty obvious too that Jesus keeps saying, they don't even know who I am. They've never known who I am.
Yeah, he said that
And
you know neither me nor my Father.
They're trying to identify him.
What was that?
Oops.
I don't know.
Is that somebody's phone going off, I guess?
Yeah, my phone. Sorry, I don't know what just happened.
Oh, no problem. No problems.
Maybe just carry on with your whatever you've got to say there, going on.
like we have things too that tell us he's
my
earthly
live is
too.
messing up. I'm gonna try to leave and come back. So I can't see the chat or anything now since I got
Okay.
that notification. I'm sorry. I'm gonna leave. I'll come right back.
Okay. Like we have, like in Psalms 97, 1 through 5, we can compare that to what Jesus said, and it's like, Yahweh rules as king, let the earth rejoice. And we have statements where he said, all the earth is mine, everything in it and everything under heaven. A lot of people don't even understand that he said under heaven.
Mm-hmm.
There he is. He's back.
Oh, sorry. I don't know what happened. I'm about to turn my notifications off.
And we know, like Psalms 24:1, a Psalm of David, the earth is the Lord's and the fullness thereof, the world and those who dwell therein. And we know that it was the devil that took Jesus up on the high mountain and showed him all the kingdoms of the world and offered them to him if he would serve him. So we have a lot of things to compare. Just every word he said, you can compare.
They always say the same comment. So context, guys, context. And then this Bible
But that's
study
the funny part is like, there's really no context to be taken it out of. It's pretty direct. It's just we're not.
It's context.
They're the ones confusing us.
Hi, Declan.
Figure out who's who.
Can you tell me how old you are?
I'm 14.
You can't stay, hon. I'm sorry.
Sorry, bud.
Why?
18 and up. It's
But
18 and up for this discussion for TicTok Live. Sorry, bud.
Sorry, this is 18 or up. To come up, you have to be 18. Hey, Vic.
It's sad, because the poor kid probably just wanted to talk, but it's sad.
If anybody else would like to come up, you have to be 18 or above.
I think you can get in trouble for that.
Yeah, I know. It's just sad,
Yeah, this was.
How many 14-year-olds do you get to want to come into this conversation?
Yeah, I don't know. Get your mom or something.
Yeah, the platform was made for kids, but now with the adults have taken it over.
Yeah.
Why do you have to be 18? Why do you have to be 18? I mean, gosh, this would be great to be able to reach, adolescents.
They don't want them to know.
Yeah.
It's the platform rules.
Yeah, but then you're going to have some angry parents getting on here.
Yeah.
Oh. That makes sense, I guess.
Well, with teaching them in public school. I got.
How are you doing, Vic?
I got.
You changed your picture. I can't tell who it is.
He's breaking
up a little bit there.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Would anybody else like to come up?
Yeah, James, if you'd like to come up, I can invite you up.
Okay, hang on. Maybe you'll get a little better signal here in a few minutes. Just hang in the box. You're fine. We'll keep you up here with us.
Yeah. We got anything else there going on?
Yeah, I'm looking.
We'll keep going.
Okay. Most people don't realize this either. When you look at the name of the deity in the Old Testament, which people call Yahweh, Yhwh, Yahushua, I mean, I've heard it say all different things. It is a Yod, He, Vah, He. It's like 4 letters of Hebrew, okay? The Havah, the last 3 letters, are actually the root word, and they mean ruin or destroy. And when you put a Yod on a Hebrew word in the front as a prefix, it means he will. So his name literally means he will destroy as a verb, and as a noun it means destruction. Now, people say, well, that can't be so because they tell us something else. They use a different word for I am, and it's not there. It's not spelled the same. But I think when Jesus taught us, he said, so whatever you wish the others would do to you, do also to them. This is the law and the prophet. He was telling us that do unto others is actually the law for him. And he said, enter by the narrow gate, for the gate is wide and easy that leads to destruction. That would be exactly the Old Testament deity's meaning of his name.
Leading them to him. Yeah.
And those who enter by it
he destroys.
are many. For the gate is narrow and the way is hard that leads, and there are few who find it. And I think he knew that we would find it if we searched and searched and searched. He was actually destruction as a noun, and he will destroy as a verb. And I got that from Abram Publishing, which is a Jewish publication. Okay. Many times, we've got two different worlds. We've got one above and one below. Okay. We have a lot of scriptures that tell us this. It's like John 3:19, and this is the judgment. The light had come into the world, and the people loved the darkness rather than the light, because their works were evil. Okay. John 6:14, when the people saw the sign that he had done, they said, this is indeed a prophet who has come into the world. They were realizing that things can come into the world. John 8:23, he said to them, you are from below, I am from above. You are of this world, I am not of this world. He made it very clear he was not of this world. And the word he used for below, like I said, was kato, and it means the underworld in Greek, or the beneath. John 9:39, Jesus said, for judgment I came into the world, that those who do not see may see, and those who see may become blind. John 12:25, whoever loves his life loses it, and whoever hates his life in this world will keep it for an eternity. This is a totally polar opposite different world. Now we're going to look at, I've got some here. I know I've got the one on him. I thought I did. Okay, Psalms 24:1. Now we look at what Yahweh has to say. The earth is the Lord's and the fullness thereof, the world and those who dwell in it. So he's telling everybody this is his world. Okay, Psalm 135:5. For I know that the Lord is great, and that our Lord is above all the gods. Wherever the Lord pleases, he does. Heaven and earth, in the seas and the deeps. He is who makes the clouds rise from the ends of the earth, who makes the lightning and the rain bring forth the wind from the storehouses. And he was who struck down the firstborn of Egypt, both man and beast. So he's taken the responsibility for unaliving firstborns. And he tells us, this is really, Amos 9 should make everybody really stop and think. If they dig into Sheol, from there shall my hand take them. If they climb up to heaven, from there I'll bring them down. And if they hide themselves at the top of a Carmel, from there I will search them out. If they hide from my sight at the bottom of the sea, from there I will command the serpent, and it will bite them. And if they go into captivity before their enemies, I will command the sword, and it shall unalive them. And I will fix my eye upon them for evil, not good. The Lord God of hosts, he who touches the earth, and it melts, and all who dwell in it mourn, and all will rise like the Nile, and sink again like the Nile in Egypt, who builds up the upper chambers of heaven, and the founds his vault upon the earth, who calls for the waters from the sea, and pours them out upon the surface of the earth. The Lord is his name. He's taking responsibility for that, for all that. Like if he touches the earth, it's going to melt. It's like, and he said I'll command the sword and it will unalive them. He's going to snatch you if you try to go up. We're captives here, I'm telling you. That whole thing in Amos 9:2-6, read it real carefully. Jesus came to we're the captives he came to set free. People don't see it because they don't really compare. Like I said, every word out of his mouth, it meant compare, compare, compare.
Once you see his character, you can compare it pretty easily.
Yeah. Like he said in John 10:7, therefore again to them, verily, verily, I say to you, I am the door, I am the gate of the sheep. All as many as came before me are thieves and robbers, but the sheep did not hear their voice. He's saying everybody that came before him was untrue. And the true sheep are going to hear his voice. I'm the door. Through me, if anyone will come in, he shall be saved, and he shall come in and go out and find pasture. I mean, when you compare that to Amos 9, you know what he's saying. You're stuck here. I'm going to help you. You know. It's really interesting, too, that word for gate or door is thura, and in modern Greek, it's a portal. You know how people, when they have those near-death experiences, they see that white light and go through that tunnel? It literally can be a portal in modern Greek.
For the roses, Carrie Ann, we appreciate it.
And this is interesting too in John 16. I came from the Father, and I have come into the world, and I am leaving the world, and I am going to the Father. So he's coming in, he's in the world, and then he's going back out. His disciples said, oh, now you're speaking plainly and not using figurative speech. They knew that he was telling then. Now we know that you know all things and do not need anyone to question you. This is why we believe that you came from God. And Jesus answered them, do you believe? Behold, the hour is coming and is indeed here. You will be scattered, each into his own home, and leave me alone. Yet I am not alone, the Father is with me. I have said these things to you, that in me you may have peace. In the world you'll have tribulation. But take heart, I have overcome the world. He's letting us know right there he's overcome all these things. And so when we draw our last breath and we get to go through that portal, he's going to be standing there with a big hug. He's going to be waiting for you.
I agree.
I agree with you on that.
Yep.
All I ever picture for when we finally are with him is the parable of the prodigal son. You know, like him putting on the big meal and putting amazing clothes on his son and telling.
Oh, I know.
What's that?
No, go ahead. Keep going.
Yeah, it's just, like the son is coming up the driveway and the one son is like, but I've been here the whole time. And he's like, but my son was dead and now he's alive. That's what he's going to be like with us. It's like, come on in, He's been waiting for us.
Well, then there's that parable about the workers in the field and the ones getting frustrated. Oh, well, he just showed up. Oh, he just You know,
Yes.
you remember that? Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
Would anybody else like to come up
So
and discuss
that's
any of
that
this
says
we're
a lot.
talking about?
Yeah, I'd love somebody to come up and talk about it. I wish some of your YouTube community would join. So many of
I
them
know.
are interested and very supportive, or just have questions. I'd love to talk with some of them.
I think some of them don't do TikTok, though. Some do, some don't,
Yeah,
probably.
I know.
A lot of people are scared to come on TikTok. They don't know much about it. And it took me a long time to ever come over here and try to figure it out.
Thank
What
you,
is
Bella,
that?
for the gift.
Oh, thanks. Y'all got anything to add to what I've been saying?
I
We
think
agree.
I agree, no doubt. I think my thoughts are, you know, when I try to explain this to people, that this is Yahweh's world, and they want, primarily Christians, they want to take you back to Genesis 1 and say, oh no, the good God created heaven and earth. And I think the confusion for me is, you know, who did create it? You know,
Yeah, it's a big question in this topic.
it really is. And I wish, I don't think there's a clear answer to it. And I'm at peace with that, you know.
Yeah, we might
mean,
not
I don't-
get all the answers.
Exactly. You know, you have, we will someday when we go through that tunnel, like the prodigal son.
Exactly.
Yeah, I've
And by
questioned that
point, maybe they
myself.
won't need the answers. You know,
You know,
by that point. Sorry.
no, I agree. I get into some of these lives and the heated discussions over topics that, I'm sorry, they don't even matter.
Well, they don't. And it's
Exactly.
the same things they've been
Exactly.
arguing about for hundreds and hundreds of
Yes.
years. It's like, okay,
Yes,
so
child.
there's got to be something bigger going on, because clearly nobody's agreeing.
And-
We need to... Go ahead.
No, I mean, isn't it just like Yahweh to get everybody scrambling around and arguing over insignificant nothings when the real truth needs to be had? And, you know, anything to distract people. Anything.
For sure.
And he doesn't care whether they're arguing over the Torah or, you know, should you go to, you know,
Right,
should you
yeah,
be a
as long as
should
they're
you be a
still arguing
Baptist
over the
or a-
matrix.
Yeah, the matrix.
Stay within
and
the
all
mind matrix of which we put you in, and don't step outside of that, or then we have problems.
So yeah, I'm at peace with not having answers to a lot of questions. I
still think he's the creator of all and the source to which everything comes from. I mean, it has to be that. It's just
it has
that
to
there's
be. I lean towards that too, child. I really do, and
yeah.
I just, but like artist was just describing when Jesus and Yahweh were up on the mountain and he showed him the kingdoms of the earth. And he said, all of it's yours. Well, I can't give my son a new car if I don't own the car to give it to him. I wouldn't anyhow, but you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So with that in mind, I kind of get a little bit in the back of my mind thinking, maybe he could have had a hand in he being Yahweh in the creation. So yeah, it's again, it's one of those things that, like Elaine said, we don't need to have all the answers, but
I think what's most important is listen.
Yeah.
Oh, Dad, dishes in the background, I think, are you. Mute when you're not talking.
Gotcha. Yeah, that'd be Julie. All right.
It's okay.
Thanks.
I like the background noise.
That's right, Doc. So we were just talking about that earlier. There's a lot of comparisons that he makes. And then even going on, I said earlier, but the next part where he's talking about who would give his children a stone. That stone, if you look at what manna is, it's like a coriander seed. It's essentially like a tiny stone. It has to be ground up with a mortar to even be somewhat edible. So that's good that you even see that comparison. You're welcome to come up too if you like.
I think about think about all the people out there, because we got John 3:16 said, "For God so loved the world that he gave his only begotten Son, whosoever believed in him should not perish, but have everlasting life." Think about all the people when Noah's boat was floating. They were out in the water. What did Noah stick his head out the window and say, "Don't worry, Yahweh loves you and has a wonderful plan for your life"? It's like you just compare everything. I mean, it's like
Sunshine. Sunshine is asking about Revelation, and really, I have my own thoughts about Revelation, but I still agree with going on that it's the revealing of the Christ. It's talking about the Christ.
Yeah, I think there's a lot in there that could use a lot of looking at the Greek too. I think there's some that cannot be Jesus in Revelation 1 with the eyes of flame of fire and a double-edged sword sticking out his mouth.
Yeah, I mean, who does that sound like to you?
And did he go and pay the ransom for us to come back and destroy all of us with saddlebags up to, blood up to the saddlebags?
Yeah, it's so contradictory, and it just doesn't make any sense.
But think about who's on that horse. The Word of God. What was the Word of God back then? Destroying everything. With his robes all covered in blood.
Pretty much.
As a name nobody knows. See, none of us have known this. I think this is like a massive awakening happening,
Yeah.
I think the truth is finally coming out. What do y'all think?
For sure, I do too.
Yeah, there's more and more people. It was a small group of. You couldn't even find somebody that could talk about this a couple of years ago, and now you're finding all types of people seeing it. So it's
It'll
got to
come
be
in
something.
and actually discuss it, It's like I'm gonna look that up too. I'm trying to remember what verse that's in, where it talks about him on the horse. Because when I read that, I'm thinking, oh my gosh, it says it's the word, the words of the Word of God. He has a name written on his thigh and his.
Sunshine asked you a question.
What's that?
She said, "Do you think Jesus is going to rescue us, or are we stuck in here till we unalive?"
That's a good question, because he said that he goes to prepare a place for us, and that he will come back and receive us to himself so we can be where he is. And I'm paraphrasing that, by the way, because I don't have it right in front of me, but it's but he also said when all the stuff happens in Matthew 24 that those that endure to the end will be saved.
Hey, Doc,
So it's a lot to look into, because I'm not real I'm not real into Paul's writings. I try to focus mostly on what Jesus said, you know. And I know they use a lot of Paul's words to say that people are going to be taken out of here.
Hey, oh, Doc, so you joined up, but do you have any questions or things you'd like to contribute or talk about? Or
Oh yeah,
Hi,
hello guys.
Doxa.
Yeah, hello,
hey,
hello Sally,
Hi.
Charlotte, Abba. Oh no, I was just interested in the subject, and then I was just listening to your talk. Yeah, I kind of known this for a long time now. I'm nearly 59.
that's
Probably,
wonderful to hear that.
well, probably I haven't not a long time, but probably like it probably started to dawn on me probably about 10 years ago, and more because I sort of grew up in like mainstream Christianity, and was kind of like born again in a Pentecostal church, and then spent like 20 years in a Anglican church. Like I was pedo baptized a Methodist. I went to a Church of England
Yeah.
school right from kindergarten. So I kind of knew the belief system, but I always sort of had a spiritual side of it, which I think I knew before I became a Christian. I knew I spoke to God, when I was a young child, and then as I got up, got to about 17, I decided I'd follow the example of Jesus because I thought he was a really good example, and that's how I wanted to live my life. And then I went through, all that, and then born again, and then all different theologies, and different, doctrines. I'm very interested in it all and very logical, like a lot of these other people, and trying to make it justified. But then I had this realization that it was sort of upside down. It was all kind of a bit of a lie. And it was sort of it's a message of Jesus.
Hold on one second.
You know,
King David, can you mute your mic? He's trying to talk. You're echoing real bad.
Oh, sorry, guys.
No, not you, Doc. Just the new
No, I didn't
person
want to
joins
monologue, but I
echoing.
just wanted to give you a
No,
bit
I
of a.
wanted to hear what you're going to say, but King David, you're echoing real bad. Could you mute for a second so he can talk?
Yeah,
Or
we'll
I
talk
can
to you in a
just,
second, King David. Just let him finish what he was saying.
I'm going to just mute him. All right, go ahead.
You might be away.
I muted him. Go ahead, keep talking. I'll unmute him in a second.
Well, that's all. So I sort of I've walked the walk of Christianity, and I sort of know different doctrines, but I've always had a spiritual connection, and through that idea of even of following Jesus, and then I had sort of like a major, not a major, no, I sort of did a few experiments in my life. One of them like a quantum physics experiment to see if I could change my natural frequency to raise it, and I gave up 3 things: eating meat, anything with a beating heart. I gave up believing anything, and I gave up media, and I did that for a year, and my whole life changed. It was quite amazing, but it was a bit scary at being a Christian. Do I give that away? But what I came to realize is if you take it all away, strip everything away, I don't know anything. But I knew the message of Jesus of to love one another, gentle, kindness, forgiveness, that way of living, a new way to live that way, and that's kind of how I see it. And I see the Old Testament of that God. He is. It's the law. It's a duality, and if you live by the law, well, then you're judged, and Satan's the accuser, and the law accuses you. And Jesus told you, gave you a new way to live to break free of that. That's
It's
kind of
so
what I
great
think.
to hear someone else saying these things. It's
Yeah, it
rare
is.
for us to hear this, to be honest.
Sure is.
Yeah, well, that's why I don't want to, monologue.
I'm gonna follow
Testament.
you.
Is that the Old Testament God almost to me looks like part of the mythology, like almost like another, like an entity that came here, like the Sumerian Anunnaki or Egyptian gods. They actually enslaved us somehow.
And I'm trying to look at those comparisons.
They're not the actual,
it's very similar.
Yeah, and they're not that spark of life, the divine spark that, God is love, and And if you have not loved, you have not
Yeah.
known God. You know, it's a spirit. It's in everything. It's in the animals. Like, I don't know. It seems to be, once you connect to it, it's hard to unsee it. It's the spirit, and the kingdom of God is within us.
How did you
Uh,
find the live?
I was just scrolling, really.
Okay, and you know all
But
this.
I'm following the host artist.
Yeah, you sure are.
Oh,
I
okay,
recognize
okay.
the name. That's awesome. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you, host.
I started doing this
That's
and
great.
doing my art on here, and then I realized that it was a good platform for talking like this, and so I kind of have shifted a little around to talking about Father, you know.
Yeah, I sort of now I kind of see it's almost like that. Do you know how you see on TikTok they're talking about there's time, timelines have come together. There's like a 3D and 5D, and I kind of sort of almost see it like this in
We had
what's
we had
happening.
someone in here talking about that the other night. We didn't really address it much, but
No, I didn't. I don't really, because I don't know anything. That's what I realise. But I can sort of see, people living in a delusion, in this three-dimensional delusion with the God of this world, and then there's the people here sort of that are also living here who have woken up and realised that there's a spiritual advantage. They're on they're tuning into this world differently, and maybe that's I see that as maybe a parallel. You've had you're in the 5D. Maybe you've raised to that level, and you're living with there's other people who are still living in the 3D, like under the law, under the flesh, sort of the Yahweh God. Everything is the God of all flesh.
I like seeing how people are actually like talking about their spirituality instead of just being talked to. You know what I mean? It's like now we can converse and actually, like, to me, this is a better form of church where you can express what you're seeing, I can express what I see. You know what I mean? It's like
Yeah,
you're not being talked to, you're talking with each other, in a conversation. Of course, it ends up in a screaming match in some of these lives, but I try not to let that happen in
no.
here.
Well, it's
Hi,
all an
Bella.
experience, isn't it? We're all having individual experiences, and you can't deny somebody else's experience or the
well,
way
we're
they're
we're all
interacting.
searching for truth. We're all trying to. Well, not everyone, but a handful of us are really looking for a deeper meaning. Some people are content with not having much depth to themselves or looking into anything deeper because it's probably very uncomfortable to try to think about these things, but it's very encouraging to hear the things you're saying, at least. I'm glad that you see these things.
Well, do you know what child of Abba? What woke me up a little bit was I started to listen to the Bible on the way I've read it all through the years, but I have a commute to work, which is about an hour. So I had the Bible app, and so I listened to the Bible from beginning to end. And I normally read it in the King James, but I think I listened to it in maybe the Message or something like that, or NLT. And I started to twig all through the Old Testament that something wasn't right. This God turned up. He had got sacrifices, and even in the translation that I was listening to, it didn't call it a sacrifice; it called it food. So it sort of woke me up.
I know. They're giving us these Disney versions of what's actually there. And it's really just in the English translations. It's so bad, and that's unfortunate because most everybody is reading it in that. And the older you go, though, the more and more you're seeing what's actually there, what the truth is.
I checked out that word doxa for piscal, and it literally means a lame human being. So they were literally sacrificing human beings.
Yeah.
And
Well, how
Judges
do you?
11, it even goes into it even more, like tells what he wanted to gain by doing that, and that
Wow.
he unalived his own daughter, and and he
Yeah,
got what he wanted from it. And I'm like, that's that Japheth, in Judges 11.
yeah. I
When
know,
I
it's
got to that, I was
horrifying.
like, oh my gosh, I didn't even know that was in there,
But I got into it. I think there was I saw it on YouTube, but it was comparing the characters of Jesus' father to the Old Testament God, and when you start to do that, the characters don't match.
Not at all.
All that, no. So to me, I just like he's different. He's it's not from the same God. And because it sort of not troubled me, but you know how everybody says Jesus is Lord, and it's always spelt with a capital LORD. The big all capitals. So, but every time we say that, that's what we're saying. We're saying that Jesus is the Tetragrammaton. But,
Right. We were talking about that last night, right?
yeah, and we sing it. And all that beautiful hallelujah.
I talked to my dad about this, and he's like, I went to church, and they're telling me to be washed in the blood, washed in the bloody Christ, and this and that, and I'm like, yeah, no. It's like it becomes more obvious when you see these things. Then they're like, what are they making me chant and say and sing about?
Yeah, I think if they
wild.
literally, like if somebody actually went into a church and they actually did that, like one of the sacrifices, they'd be running out of there. They're doing Satan worship. They'd be freaking out. It'd be like they don't think about what they're really reading. It's like for some reason it just like it goes right over the head somehow. I'm mad at myself. It took me so long. I'm 64, Doxa, and it makes me mad that it took me that long to figure things out.
Yeah,
I mean,
and perhaps it is. Perhaps it's a general awakening of a lot of people at all different ages. But
I was the youngest in the research group when it was kind of going on, and that was probably 4 or 5 years ago now almost, but I didn't have anybody my age that was interested in anything like this. And most of the groups are older people, but I still wanted to talk. I still wanted to learn.
and I was so nervous when I came to them telling them what I thought I was seeing. I said, oh boy, they may all like throw me in. I want them to have anything to do with me anymore. But once I started talking about it, it was like, well, really, that does make sense. And I was surprised,
I wanted Sunshine to come back up because she was from your YouTube channel and she had some good questions. She was still trying to figure things out. I wanted to, maybe she can even put something in the chat because I like.
Yeah, she sure did.
I've got lots of verses have you guys? Like there's lots of verses that point to him being the beast. There's the Revelations, where it says is it 13:16, like the mark of the beast on the frontlets, or on your forehand, and on your wrist and your forehead. But if you go to Exodus, the exact same chapter and verse, that's what he does when they escape from Egypt. It marks them on their forearm and marks them on the frontlet of their eyes.
That was when I first realized this. I was watching a YouTube video, and this guy was going through all that, and he was saying, now, Satan imitates God. Satan imitates, and he kept pointing back to the Old Testament, and I'm like, dude, you're wrong. He didn't imitate, he is him. It was like, it's like the more he went on to explain, the more I was seeing it, and I was like, because even Moses is mentioned exactly, when I looked into him, he's mentioned exactly 666 times in the Old Testament. And when he went up on the mountain and come down, when I was studying Hebrew, he grew horns. He didn't, his face wasn't shining, he had horns on his head.
That's
and
why
you can
all the
see him.
depictions of him have those horns.
Yeah, all the ancient artwork, he has horns. I'm like, so they knew what it meant. It wasn't like it was hidden. And he met Yahweh at a thorn bush, and Jesus said, that a thorn bush couldn't produce good fruit. That went through my head. It was like Father was in my head helping me every step of the way to see the comparisons. It was pretty wild. And I know there's plenty more that I haven't seen yet. I've been working on it, and when I found out that word parable meant compare, I was like, oh my gosh, he really was saying compare this, compare that. Because I always thought it was like some mystical meaning hidden or, that we weren't supposed to understand. But literally the word came from, it said from parabola, which in Latin meant to compare. Kind of like where you get parallel bars. It's like put these side by side and compare them is what the word actually means. Like put it upside of something else. Pretty amazing. I just feel like, Father, I feel so blessed to really even be seeing this, because it never made sense to me either. I kept reading the Old Testament thinking, this just cannot be, Father. It just can't be.
No, and that's what, as you go through church, you sort of learn to read the Bible with like a presupposition, a preconceived idea of how it is. But when you, like you say, you start to read those words, what it means, like that, you have to compare this. And I think also in the Greek, the word for sin, it can also mean like error or mistaken. So when he says that you're living in, die in your sin, it's like you're dying your mistake or your error, your understanding.
That's interesting. I'll
That would
have to
make a
look
lot
that
of
word up.
sense. Yeah, I want to see
Because I
that
Yeah,
hadn't.
have a
too.
look. It's not, but it's. I think it's one of the meanings. Yeah. So that's what I sort of come to understand. Is actually living in a delusion. It's not as it is, and I think, and then now I see that Jesus talked about it. And he said it's not here and it's not there. And so it's not in books and it's not in a religion and it's not in a belief system. The kingdom of God is already in you, and it's around you. It's within your midst. Is that Luke 17:21 maybe?
We talked to somebody about that. Yeah, about that verse. That's right.
Yeah, there's a lot of
11.
controversy over that in the midst or inside of you, and I think it meant it was in the midst, but there's a lot of people that think it means within.
Well, I kind of think it means a bit like both. It means it's within you, but it's around you, and like it's the spark of life. Perhaps it's in everything. That's kind of sort of how I see it. Well, now what gave us animated us, gave us a spirit, gave it all soul. We're energy. That's why I find it hard when we die. Because you can't create or destroy energy.
Yeah, I feel like our body is just a shell, and we're housed in it while we're here.
Yeah, which is very much sort of like a virtual reality or a simulation, or like a 4D, prison.
I was a trauma nurse for many years, and I saw a lot of people unalive, in many various different ways, and it's so strange because when they do, it's like that light in their eyes just goes out. But then a lot of them that we would bring back would have memories, of being up above us and watching us work. So they were not in there at that moment, but they were still seeing what was happening,
Yeah.
And we had one really interesting case. People can say that it's a chemical reaction. When that happens, it can't be, because we had two patients at the same time, and our rooms were cinder block. They were like real thick, and we had what we called trauma 1 and trauma 2. Well, in trauma 1, we had a 74-year-old that had a heart attack and was technically dead when he rolled through the door. they were bagging him and doing compressions and all that stuff. And then in trauma 2, at the same time, they rolled in right back to back. We had a 24-year-old that was on a motorcycle that had wrecked, and same thing. He had no pulse, no breathing. We were doing artificial. Well, we worked on both of them real hard. We had one crew with one doctor in trauma 1 and another crew with another doctor in trauma 2. So there's no way that they could have heard what went on from one room to the other. And we lost the 24-year-old. And we got the 74-year-old back. And when we did, he was breathing good. So the doctor went ahead and pulled the tube. He was talking to me and crying. And I said, "What is wrong? We got you back. You're doing good." And he said, "It's not fair." I said, "What's not fair?" He said, "The young guy, he went on and I came back and I'm old. I don't understand." And I said, "What do you mean?" He said, "The boy that was on the motorcycle." And he described him. I mean, it was just like he was looking at him. And he said, "We were talking up above y'all, and he turned and looked at me. We were walking down the tunnel, and we were seeing y'all back behind us. And he said that we were watching y'all working on us. And the young man just turned to me, and he said, 'It's not your time.' And he said, I just like zipped back into my body and just felt like a vacuum when I went back in." And he said, and the other guy went straight on into the light. And he said, "But I'm old and he's young. I don't understand." And that's what he was crying about, because he felt like he should have been the one to go on and the young guy should have got to stay longer. Now, that cannot be a chemical reaction when two people in separate rooms are both unaliving at the same time, and they can talk about each other, you know?
I never met each other or anything.
Yeah, never met each other,
I've
didn't
read
know each
so
other.
many wild NDEs, and it's,
Well, that's my fascination with that is what brought me to Jesus, because it was like I heard so many of them, you know, and like we had this lady, we used to call it frequent flyer, where people come in and they're sick, they're real sick at home, and they'll come in multiple times to the ER, and you know them, you get to know them by name, you know, and the ambulance people even say, "We're coming in with Miss So-and-so. You know her, she's got the cardiac asthma, blah," you know. And she come in there and she didn't have a pulse or no, was not breathing. And I love that lady so much. She was so sweet and so kind. And I got really upset. I was trying to save her, and it's like I was slapping on her arms trying to get a vein to pop up. And I don't know if anybody's ever watched that, but it's pretty intense. You put a tourniquet on real tight, and you're just pop, pop, pop on the arm trying to make the vein pop up so you can get it up high enough to get a big gauge needle in it. And I said a few choice words, you know. Back then I used to talk like a sailor. And I got the line in, we got her back, and she was still intubated when she went around to the MICU. Well, I come in the next day, and they said she wanted to see me upstairs, and I was like, "She wants to see me?" And they said, "That's unusual. She never said nothing like that before." So I went up there, and she said, "I was up above. I was watching you." She said, "You work so hard. I've never seen nobody work so hard." She said, "I even said, you said some cuss words." She even noted that I said the cuss words. And big old tears were rolling out of her eyes. She said, "I just wanted to tell you thank you for working so hard and for saving my life." And I was like, wow. You know, that's two major ones that stuck in my brain. There were other ones, you know. I can tell you one more if you want to hear it. That was unusual that happened. I was working in ICU one night, and I came in, and sometimes people know when they're going to unalive and cross over. And this woman that came in, she looked great. We were about ready to discharge her back out on the floor and just to home. And I come on the shift, and she was speaking to me, and she said, "I don't want you to be upset tonight because I'm going home tonight." And I said, "What do you mean going home?" She said, "I'm going home. I'm going father." And I was like, "What?" I said, "You're doing great. You don't have everything's looking good now. We're fixing to let you out of here." She said, "No, I just didn't want you to worry, hon, because I know how you love people." And I thought, oh my gosh. Well, it wasn't. 30 minutes later, her monitor started to having some blips and some PVCs and stuff, and I was like, uh-oh. So I went and checked everything, gave her the meds that we had ordered when stuff like that goes wrong, and I called the doc, and I told him what she had said. He said, oh, don't worry about that. And it was about an hour later, more blips, more problems. Blood pressure started dropping. I called him back again. I said, you might ought to come in. I said, something's going on with her. I don't like it. We drew blood work and all that stuff, and I went back in the next round, and she was having runs of VTAC. And I was like, oh, crap. And I hollered out the door. I said, somebody get the doc here and get him here now. And she unalived before he got there. And we were working a full code by the time the doc come through the door, and he was like, what happened? I said, I told you. I said, I've called you 3 times tonight. And we lost her, and I was like, so I closed the room. We always clean the patient up, and they leave, and they come pick them up, pick up the body, and I had closed the door to the room, and all of a sudden, those big, heavy IV bottle bars you see in the movies that they hang the IV fluids on from the ceiling? We had those, and they go around on a little track. Those started swinging in the room. I was like, oh my gosh. And then the IVACs that we put the IV meds on started turning on and off on their own. And I went in there to check that, and there was no reason for them to be turning on and off. They were completely turned off when we walked out. And everybody was getting scared in ICU. They were like, I just want to go home. I said, what are you afraid of? I said, it's probably just her leaving, And I'm an American Indian, and we are always taught that you have to have an exit to leave out, like to go. And I said, well, I'm going to go open the window in there. And when I went in there and opened the window, then everything stopped. There was no more IVACs going off, no more bars swinging. Everything stopped. And I said, see, it's fine. She was just ready to go home. She was trying to leave. But I find that's pretty amazing when you see stuff like that. I don't know how people can doubt that there's something beyond us, I hope I'm not boring y'all.
Oh, no, I was listening.
But I thought it was interesting, and it was a very weird experience to have. But I felt like she went on to Father after we opened the window.
I love those stories.
Oh, thanks.
Shine said something. She says that
Did we
she
lose
thinks
Doxa?
Yeah, we did. He probably had something to do, but I enjoyed his conversation.
I did too. I enjoyed. If you're still in the room, Doxa, we enjoyed it.
And Sunshine said, Father may be hidden in the Old Testament. That one's hard for me because it just, how Jesus keeps saying that they don't even know him, nobody knows him, had never heard his voice or seen his shape. It's like if they did know anything about him.
There's 2 creation stories, though, so he's got that in there. We can clearly see 2 creation stories.
Hello, Wiki Dad. Do you have questions? I want somebody to come up and try to talk about it when there's all these people on the panel. Of course, nobody wants to come up when we have all these people on the panel willing to talk about it. That's what I would...
Yeah, I would love to have more guests come up. People are probably afraid of what this is something most people won't even consider in their brain,
I don't think people like talking about the possibility that Yahweh isn't our Father because of the fact that so many of us have suffered with abusive parents growing up. So they condone the abuse, in their life. So they think it's normal. It's like justice. Well, I was a bad
They've
kid.
normalized it, absolutely.
Yeah. So like, for example, I got my rear end beat quite a bit growing up, and a lot of it I didn't deserve, but there were times that I really did deserve it. Do you get what I'm saying? So it's like that,
No, I do.
that pandering that you grow up with all your life, you start to think, well, maybe this God of the Old Testament is our Father. Maybe we were so rotten that we deserved it. No, because there's
Yeah,
no
I know. And
there's like no
they're,
darkness in our Father, none.
that's right.
And
They're
then
always
people,
trying to justify it some way or another, though. It's like all the justification. It's like, why don't you just stop trying to justify it and just reason?
yeah.
It's think about it a little deeper.
And then people are like, well, if God is so good, why doesn't he take out Lucifer if he can kill him and just destroy him? Why does he allow?
They always say that. Yeah.
Yeah, because it goes against everything Jesus stands for. There's no darkness in him. That's what I try to tell people. He doesn't kill, he doesn't destroy. This isn't his world. He's washed his hands of it. Now, if we call and ask on him, yeah, he's there for us. But he's not going to have anything to do with this. You know what I mean?
Wiki Dad, you're welcome to request to come up if you want to say something. We can talk even about the whole sin thing. We can talk about these things.
I think you're right, though, Bella. It's like when you've been browbeat and misabused, it's hard to separate that. It's like, because that's the only daddy figure you knew, and then you just look at this other and you're going, okay, well, maybe that's the way all daddy figures are,
Yeah, like when I was trying to tell my mom about the whole Yahweh thing, she's like, I just don't see it. I just don't see it. I says, Mom, you really got to look at it this way. Jesus is not going to beat your butt because you stole $1 out of his wallet, Yeah, he's going to reprimand you, but do you think he's really going to whoop your butt over it? So that's not how a parent is supposed to be, I said, that's how we were conditioned all these years to believe that's how we're supposed to discipline a child. Are you going to kill your kid if he lies to you? Because that's what happened in the New Testament too with Yahweh,
Right.
And she's like, oh, I'm going to have to really take a look at this, But there's only so much pearls you can throw out before, you're like, I'm done. I can't deal with this no more. The back and forth with some of them.
Yeah, it's hard to get people to see it. I can't get my own family to see it.
Yeah, I tried to talk to my mom about it, and the only thing she says is, I'm worried about your salvation. Oh, are you in a cult, or are you this, or that? They just don't get it. I show them all the verses, and you know how it goes. Gosh, my mom is very difficult. It's very hard to convince her of anything, but I still try. I still am just like, Mom. She's like, well, because I'm like, well, I told you about this. I told you about X, Y, Z. You thought all those things were crazy. Now you think they're true. I said, you used to ridicule me for years about all these other topics. So why, when it comes to this one, why do you think I'm not right? How much time have you spent looking into it? Have you studied? Have you really looked at these things? Do you know what I'm talking about? And she doesn't really even, gosh, she was telling me things about Barabbas. She's like, oh, well, Barabbas did this, this, and this. And I said, hold on a second. I was like, where does it say that? I kept looking. I'm like, Mommy, I was like, you realize the things that you told me that you said about Barabbas came from a movie back in the 70s with Anthony Quinn? She's like, no. I said, okay, well, just send me them verses when you're ready. It's been months now. Still hasn't sent me the verses. I'm like, I'm telling you, that's how deep that brainwashing and Hollywood even is in on it. Just, molding your mind into what they want you to think about everything.
In that recent movie, Noah's Ark, with Russell Crowe.
Oh, yeah.
People watch that stuff. they watch that stuff. And I know the movie Child is talking about there on Barabbas with Anthony Quinn. And honestly, that was my perception of Barabbas, and then to come to realize, well, I remember way back as a young man, I believe I was in seminary, and somebody mentioned Jesus Barabbas, but I'm sure it was quickly dismissed. Yhwh is the master of deceiving us and keep us from the truth. But,
He deceives the whole
can you hear
world.
me all right?
Yeah. You're breaking up a little bit.
Yeah.
When you have the little
Yeah,
red
got some
lines,
connection.
it means your signal's weak.
That's why I read that
Yeah, I see
2
it.
Samuel 22 when we came on, because it's like the only person described as a dragon in the entire book is Yahweh. He's the only one. And I do believe that's the record of his fall, in that chapter. But think about too the signs and wonders, and they're coming out of Egypt. Are they signs and wonders, or are they a horror show? I mean, if all our rivers turn to blood, and all the fish belly up, and all the livestock, kill over, and then all the bugs come and eat the crops, and there's nothing to eat, is that a wonder, or is that a horror show? Yeah, and then the firstborns being unalived, it's like, what did they ever do to anybody? They hadn't even grown up, or they're babies. And we got that Moses and the 10 Commandments with Charleston Heston, and made it look like it's fantastic, and we all watched that growing up, and it's like, I think to myself, what were we thinking?
All that money and everything dumped into the production of that Barabbas movie, that's intentional.
Yeah.
I mean, they're not giving you that entertainment and all that just for free, and just oh yeah, we're going along with all these things. I don't think so. I think that was definitely, gosh, because just after I heard my mom quoting that, like that was what she knew about Barabbas, it's like, gosh, you're quoting this from a Hollywood movie. Goodness gracious, like it's not even in the text at all.
When I researched to try to see if there was anything in any of the old, just old history books or whatnot written about Barabbas, the only thing I could find was that he was a potter. And I thought that was interesting, that they called him a potter. And then I found another book that said he was the son of Ezekiel or something, which wasn't even true. But just the narrative that they played, that he's a murderer and a robber,
Right.
Yeah, and they painted him to be the most evil-looking character,
Yeah, they even aesthetically, they even make him look all evil and messed up, and oof, man, it's evil thinking about what they've done.
I couldn't believe when I found that thing in the Jewish encyclopedia where Oregon had changed the name of Jesus Barabbas to just Jesus. They took it out.
Pipe
I was
dreams,
like,
if you want to
yeah.
come up, you can. What is Yahweh? The God of the Old Testament, a Jewish God, fire desert God, comes to kill, steal, and destroy.
He's actually a tetragrammaton made up of fallen angels. But
Right.
people don't understand that. They think it's one person. It's not. It's Lucifer at the top and bottom, the Alpha and the Omega. Then you have
Right.
Gabriel,
Right.
Michael, Uriel, Raphael. For each point of the star of quote unquote David, That's where each one of those angels sits, and it makes up the tetragrammaton. And then below them is 72 more demons that make up Satan. Not a lot of people understand that, though.
Hello, Pipes.
Hello, how are y'all?
Doing all right.
Good. Good
Have
deal.
any questions?
Yeah, so Yahweh is what you're saying is YHWH?
Yes, that's a
The
tetragrammaton.
Yeah.
And that is not another way to say Yahshua, which is another translation for Jesus, is that correct?
No.
No, it isn't.
Yahweh and Yahshua are different. Is that correct?
Right.
Okay.
Correct.
Okay. Yeah, I had a friend of mine that kind of midlife, early in life. I'm old now, but he he joined a cult called the 12 Tribes, and it has every sign of a cult, and they follow Yahshua. But
That's Metatron. Yeshua is Metatron. It's another one of the fallen angels, one of the 72.
they claim it's another
Yeah.
translation for the name for Jesus, and it's the 12 tribes, but they follow the 49 thing. Once there's 49 establishments all over the world in every continent, every established major continent, then the return will happen, the apocalypse, whatever. He'll come back, but they all, the men grow their hair long and grow beards and et cetera, et cetera. But it was very toxic. It still is. He's still in it, but
Yeah.
very
Do they
toxic.
follow Torah or?
I mean, they worship Yahshua, and they say it's another name for Jesus, and that's why I was just interested in the live. I've been passing it a couple, going through it, seeing it, scrolling, and listening to y'all. And y'all are very educated, very balanced, and very nice people. And I've been kind of listening and popping in and eavesdropping. But I was just curious because I mean, there's so many millions of interpretations and
Oh, no doubt.
dozens of writings of the Bible and etc. But I find all of it interesting, and a fair conversation and fair balance is what y'all seem to do, and I appreciate that. But I was just curious and popped in to ask you all that question. But 12 tribes is definitely they see Yeshua is another name for Jesus. All the men grow their hair long and grow beards. They separate the men from the women. You work. You're not allowed to contact the outside world. And just like Scientology, you work your way to one person in the end, and that person gives you total enlightenment or connection with God or Yeshua or whatever they consider it. But
That's
It's
scary.
hard for me with them
It's really
because it's
scary,
like,
yeah,
where did Jesus
Yeah,
say
that's
all this
scary.
stuff?
Pray for him.
Gosh.
Definitely pray for him.
It's
Yeah,
not-
yeah, you need to pray for
nothing.
your friend.
like it's nothing like the true meaning of Christ and Jesus and what he was trying to do and what that whole picture is. It's like you detach yourself from society and you listen to just them. You work, all your money goes to the 12 tribes. You don't actually receive a paycheck. And I was raised by hippies, man.
It sounds like a David
oh gosh,
Koresh
it's already
cult.
got huge red flags.
Yeah,
huge
Dave-
red flags
All
already.
the
You remember-
signs of a cult.
Do you remember
It is a
David
cult.
Koresh in the what was that, the 70s? David Koresh?
Yeah, David Koresh.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's what it reminds me of.
That was like
Gosh.
I think that was the 80s, sweetheart. That was not. I think that was the 80s. David Koresh was Waco, Texas. That was the 80s, if I'm not thinking. But yeah, it's basically you work your way to one person, like Scientology, there's so many things like that claim whatever, but there's like three main signs. Don't contact the outside world. You work, you don't get a paycheck, and the entire thing you end up just talking to the one person who invented it or founded it. And that's just like L. Ron Hubbard got busted. He went out to sea, and I think it was the CIA, but it was the government, American government was like on him about this thing he had that was like supposedly like the Ark of the Covenant or whatever. And you touch it, and then you get enlightened for all the higher ups, and they confiscated it. And he went out to sea to run from everyone, and they found out it was just something that just shocks the daylights out of you. It's just something that just gives you an electrical shock. And, and that was after millions of dollars, you give all your money to it, or you work for them and don't get any money, you get to get electrocuted. And that's pretty much where my friend ended up. But I was just curious because I didn't know what that meant. And I'm now more on the same page with what you're all talking about and understand it more. So thank you.
Oh, you're welcome.
Yeah, no worries. Yeah, I'd like to have somebody that disagrees come up, but everybody's been agreeing tonight, so that's really good.
Well, I was asking you a question and telling you, my experience and why I'm asking the question. I'm not really.
Oh yeah, no, I'm very appreciative of what you're saying. We've had more and more people join in, and especially 2 nights ago, we had a lot more people join in and have come to this understanding. So it just takes a long time to get to this point. It's not something that just comes easily. You have to really be studying. Most people that are just kind of going through life, whatever, they're not really looking into it. They're not investigating anything. They're not questioning anything.
No, they're happy to stay on their phones, and weak times make for weak people.
Yeah.
And we're definitely in weak times where everyone is instant gratification, everything's at your fingertips, and no one's using it the correct way. And so also I'm curious, why are you wanting to have someone disagree with you?
It's not that I want that. It's just that I want somebody that has questions. I want somebody that's wanting to maybe learn a little bit more, maybe asking questions. And
I know James in the comments was asking about Barabbas and how that played into it. I was going to let him know, James, there was 2 Jesuses. Most people aren't familiar with that, but we've got Jesus telling us the one from the earth speaks of earthly things, and the one from heaven speaks of heavenly things. And most people don't catch that. After the resurrection, you've even got 2 running around, because you've got one they can recognize and touch, and you've got another one that they can't recognize and they can't touch. Trying to think of other examples. Oh, we're told about it in Acts 19, where they say Jewish vagabond exorcist. Well, exorcist means somebody that's going to extract an oath. Okay. And they were telling them that they were calling people crazy that were worshiping the Lord Jesus, and telling them that they had to renounce him and swear an oath to the Jesus that Paul taught. Well, when you look at the text, the one that Paul taught, he uses Christ Jesus all the time. And Paul had said that if anybody teaches another Jesus other than the one he teaches, let them be accursed. So he was literally wanting to throw curses on people that would teach any other Jesus. And when Jesus was talking, they said, there's another group over there using your name, and they're doing all these miracles and stuff. And he said, if their for us, don't say anything, So that was polar opposite from Jesus's opinion. But also we've got, like, when Pilate said when they're standing before Pilate, he said, who do you want me to release? Jesus they call the Christ, or Jesus Barabbas? And the crowd screamed for Barabbas. Well, you got to think about that crowd. That was the same crowd that had just laid down palm trees and stuff and wanted to make him king as he was coming in the gate, And it was the same people he was healing, the same people he was raising from the dead, doing all these miracles to. Who do you think they were going to yell for? Did they want to unalive the one that was doing all those wonderful things for them that they had followed around? Because I don't think people realize how big the crowds were for back then. Like, at one point, there was so many people, he got in a boat. so they wouldn't get trampled down. And they followed him for days without even having food. I mean, did they really want to unalive him? That makes no sense. Then you got his statements like, I come in my Father's name, and when another comes, you'll receive him. And even though he comes in his own name. And it's like, the word Christ is also not only is it a title, it is also a proper name. And Bar Abba means son of the Father. So when those people were screaming, release Bar Abba, they were actually screaming, release the son of the Father to us. And it's just a lot involved in all this. You have to really, really, really listen to what Jesus is saying, and you can see it, I hope that helps explain better, but we have Oregon. He was one of the early church people, and he has a statement that in the four Gospels that Jesus' name was originally Jesus Bar Abbas or Jesus Bar Abba, that they used both of those terms, and that for confusion's sake, they removed Bar Abba or Barabbas from the text. Mm-hmm. And that right there tells you that they made a major change in the text. But I think that Bar Abba was the real one. I hope that helps, James. I know there's probably a lot of other questions. I have like a 3-hour video on that, on the research I did on it, on YouTube if you want to see it. You can message me on here and I'll send you the link, or else look at my profile. It should be in my profile. The link to the YouTube channel. It's the one that says Jesus Christ or Jesus Barabbas on the title. But I hope that helps.
So that helped me for sure. I know you're talking to somebody in the comments, if I'm not mistaken. I definitely think that in listening to y'all, I do artwork for a living, and that's why I came upon your page here, because it says artist.
We're all artists, actually.
Exactly.
Everyone on the panel is an artist.
So you just took the words out of my mouth. So I really liked that you did that. I mean, and also, people see the word artist and just think visual arts, but an artist is theater, an artist is writing, an artist is music. Those are all artists, but the word by itself usually placates directly to, you think of visual arts. But when I do art,
I find it interesting that a lot of artists actually end up seeing this, and I don't know if that's because of the creative mindset and the way we think and see things in the world, but it is very interesting that very many artists end up getting what we're talking about.
Well, in the text,
so what's the basic premise of it? What's the basic premise of what y'all believe? I'm just curious.
I believe that Jesus Bar Abba was the real Jesus, and I think that the one they called the Christ was.
They tried to superimpose the Christ, right?
Yeah, and that's the one they set up in the Catholic Church, I think. But I was going to tell you something about artists.
Really interesting. I've never heard that point of view, and I think that's really interesting. I think that 99.9999997% of everything that we're told about history is a lie, and that everything, like, this is all a test, and for that reason, and the main thing for me is like, and I know y'all didn't ask, but my main thing that keeps me open-minded and accepting, I think, two things. One, that the golden rule that you're taught is not right. Treat people how you would like to be treated. The true golden rule is to treat people how they would like to be treated, because everyone's different. And that then religion, to me, and how I feel about how I've traveled the world doing art, a lot of the country in America and some of the world, but everyone I've ever met, I think standing in the light would be something all religions would accept as saying what they're talking about, enlightenment or whatever. But the bottom line for me is as close as I can get in this reality as a human being to telling the truth and being truthful to myself and being truthful to other people is very difficult, but the best thing I can do, and the closer you can get to that, is the closer you can get to the light, get to God, and to be honest and protective of yourself and your family, but to be honest, to stand in the light is the light is truth. And then it gets deeper from there, of course, but I really respect y'all and appreciate what y'all are doing here.
I want to share something with you, Pipes, that you might like. You know where he says he's the bread of life? Mm-hmm. Okay, the word in Greek is artos. Artos is Latin for all the arts. The creator of all.
You're exactly right. I never thought about that. That's brilliant.
Yeah.
Yep.
Do you want to hear something else? Each one of us on this panel are all artists too.
We're all artists.
We're all artists on this panel.
And talented artists that I'll add. Has very good artists on here.
That's awesome. Well, I'm going to go through and follow all y'all.
Yeah, I'll follow you back.
I definitely appreciate what y'all are doing. Y'all are you're very chill too, like in the way you talk and stuff.
We try to be. We try to show, because it's hard to get people to see something life-changing. If you've experienced something life-changing and you've come to new information in a new, different way that you want to live your life, but there's no application, and you're not actually treating people the way Jesus would have, it's going to be really hard to get that point across.
Yeah, I agree. It's hard to help people that can't help themselves, and it's very difficult when you're a good person. You want to help people in whatever format your perspective is, or why you're doing it. The reason why you're wanting to help people. It's hard to help people that can't help themselves, and it's hard to not, when you do that anyway, for whatever reason. It's hard to not have that energy surround you and still be solid and progressive. And that's a very difficult part of life when you're helping people, because you can see it in them, but they can't do it. And sometimes there's just no help for them, but they're still a person. And, I'm not, I hope I'm explaining that well, but I get what you're saying. I totally do.
Yeah, I appreciate you, really, everything you're saying. Just the more, I can't believe how many people have come up and they're getting this. That's a blessing in and of itself.
Yes, it is.
See more and more people just seeing this difference with Yahweh and the Father. That's a big one, because if you can get past that, then you got to make the rest of it make sense. That's why we're saying these things about the Christ and whatnot, because when you're calling him that title, that's you've got to understand what you're really saying about him when you say that. So if that's who you're praying to and that's who you think, you might want to rethink that if you know who Yahweh really is. Because if you think that you're just going to pray to Yahweh's son, don't know if that's really helping you very much. And that's where I was at for a while. So now I know the difference.
And I think that if, the written history, just about American world history, everything that we're taught, like the pyramids, those aren't tombs. There was never a body found ever in any pyramid, especially in Egypt. And I've lived in Mexico and etc. There's pyramids all over the earth, but those were energy plants. Those were, like Tesla coils, like they transmitted energy and information, like we have the internet and radio and power. And I think everything's been like, this is just my little humble opinion, but I definitely think that they want us to not know history, and they have changed the Bible more than anything, probably. Because it's so powerful and it has so much truth in it. So of course they're going to attack that. And to think that every country that's existing now was founded by the most moral, best people, which is what every government of every country wants you to think. This is the best way, and we did it for the right reason, and we did it for this God, or that we did it for freedom or whatever. Right. No, that's not what happened. It was by the most ruthless, Vladimir the Impaler, not fair, evil, non-moral, no integrity. That's what war is. There's no such thing as a fair fight. And who wins is who's willing to be that horrible. That's what war is. War is horrible. And so, of course, all of history has to be a lie. And of course, they manipulated the Bible. But I think it's one of the most fascinating things, there is to wonder and to hope for. I definitely study history, like what really happened as far as this planet, and what they're lying to us about. But definitely the poor Bible. There's so many versions of it, and we've been that's what they're doing right now.
And it's been they've been changing translations and changing this and changing that, and
diversity.
There's a verse that they use. They'll try to quote Jesus, and I think they use this for the Holy Wars, but it's the one, they use it a lot. You have people come in and they say, oh, well, Jesus said, I didn't come to bring peace, but to bring the sword. But if you really look at that in the Greek, it says, I did not come to cast out peace, but to cast out the sword. That's a totally different meaning. It's almost the opposite. And they've done that on purpose because they got to push, these kings got to, oh, I like this book or whatever, but we got to change this because we got to do what we got to do. And, then the Holy Wars ensued, but
it has to fit their narrative. It has to fit the narrative.
That's exactly right. Yeah, because we know that Jesus wouldn't be about any of that, but those people couldn't read and write. I mean, they were chaining the book to the podium. If anybody even tried to read it for themselves or interpret it for themselves, they were unalived. That tells you everything you need to know.
Yeah,
pretty much right
I
there.
agree with you emphatically. Yes, definitely. That's the main thing, man, and getting people to. I mean, the fact that and even TikTok is, I call it TikToxic. It's just like
I'm about to use that one.
It's just like the brick and mortar world, But man, have I really expanded and met amazing people on this app, and it's really. I've tried to format it and my perception of it and my use of it in a way to have conversations like this with people like y'all, and it's really awesome, man. I can't tell you how much I've enjoyed this conversation. How happy I am that there are people like y'all on this format.
Thank you so much.
Means a lot, really.
Yes, it does.
Everyone here has put a lot of time and effort into talking about what we're talking about. It's not easy to talk about. And we've been pretty quiet for many years now. We're trying to have a voice. We're trying to actually say something.
Well, what caught me definitely was the artist. Then I saw the dragon on the picture, and then I wondered. I've been listening to y'all, and I couldn't figure out. And I try not to Google things because I'm old. And I like to think, but I do give up and Google every now and then. But I was like, I saw y'all again. I was like, I'm just going to ask them. And you were like, come on up. So that's what it's all about.
We want to talk to anybody. Yeah. And thank you for being so respectful. And we really appreciate your words.
I appreciate y'all. I definitely, the main thing is not to throw stones. The main thing is like, there might be something that's not right.
We've had some people come in to say all types of things, and we try to just treat everybody the same. And however Father Jesus was telling us to interact with people, I try to stick with that. I try to keep that priority. I don't like to get my emotions involved and, I think I'm right, or I just, okay, well, let's level with you. Where are you at mentally? Where are you at spiritually? Where are you at in your journey? Where are you going through things in life? I want to understand the person a little bit before I just start saying, okay, all right, well, Okay, we disagree, but sometimes that does happen. But your conversation is a little more rare with this topic, but it's becoming a little less rare, which is encouraging to me. It makes me excited when somebody comes up and they're agreeing and they get what we're saying. We're not used to that as much. So I love hearing it.
Well, yeah, I'm used to be called a lot of names and choice words on here instead of saying that they agree with me.
I can tell by a person's speech patterns and their voice, their intent usually. But the thing is, y'all are you just said it, and you've behaved as such on here, and I mean it's a very like you said about me, for y'all, to me, from my opinion, my perspective, it's also very unique to meet people like y'all that are so, you'll listen
I get it.
And then respond. Like, it's so 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2 on this app, and it's exhausting for me. I'm not that.
I've tried to jump into lives, and I've talked just like, and I do appreciate you saying that about us, because it is a big priority for me. I don't know about everyone else, but for me, it's huge to try to have that loving nature that Father would want us to have for people. So I'm not trying to be combative. I'm not trying to be obtuse. I'm not trying to call people stupid or dumb. I'm not trying to do any of these, because if you've been anywhere on TikTok Live, it's always toxic right off the rip, and they're yelling at you. If you were to even say the things that we're talking about right now, they'd want to hang you up and do the same things.
Yeah, and if you go to my brother-in-law lives in China. He just moved to Beijing.
Oh, is he a teacher?
He is.
I figured. Okay.
He
English
taught
or
in the Yucatan Peninsula. He's from America and New England, but he taught in Yucatan Peninsula, and then they moved to Estonia above Latvia by Sweden and Finland. Really small country.
Okay. Oh no, I'm familiar with Finland and up in there.
And Estonia, it was awesome. They loved it, but he got offered a bunch of money to go teach in China, so he's going to go do that for 2 years.
I can't say I blame him.
But TikTok over there, make that money. I mean, it's and that they have a little kid is 6. He's right at 5 or 6. He's a boy, and he has now lived from birth from Mexico to Estonia to China, and he speaks like 3 languages. Like, it's insane. It's awesome. But in China, TikTok is all talent. It's all people that play music, people that can sing well, people that can do, like you'll see blurps on our version of TikTok where it's Asian people, Japanese people, etc., especially Chinese people, because it's from China, doing amazing stuff very well and quickly. And that's all it is over there. There's no what we see, the trash that you were talking about, and the lives are the same, and it's very different for a reason, for sure, and I hate it.
I have to somewhat agree. The brain rot is real. The brain rot is very real.
I'm on here for art and awesome conversation and meeting new people, and
we are too.
Yeah, so
there's some very nice artists on this app. There really are.
It's amazing, really, and some really intelligent people, too, because this is a very unique format and very well done. Yeah, it's very well done, for sure. And I spent my career in giant empty mansions, echoey empty mansions, and giant empty businesses at night. And so, it gets weird by myself. I work by myself too. So it gets an ice machine will scare you at about 3 a.m. But
I'm sure, you get a little lonely.
I definitely peed a little bit a couple times. And you get used to it. You're like, oh God, it's the ice machine. It's the ice machine. But this app and this format, met artists all over the world, and I can paint with them, and it's given me morale, and it's inspired me, and I've learned a lot and met a lot of people like y'all, and it's definitely awesome.
It's great to hear you're an artist. It makes sense why you agree. I love that we're all artists. I don't know what you paint or whatnot or draw or whatever, but I followed you, so
I'm doing actually, speaking of TikTok, I did a painting that I made look like a concert promotional poster. And I was wanting to get an homage to all the people on TikTok that have, like I just said, inspired me, kept me company, and et cetera, et cetera. And for the past 2 years, the people I've painted with the most online. And I was like, I'll make it look like a concert promotional poster. And so I put 18 names of the 18 people that I paid with the most and I appreciate in this work of art. And then I'm doing prints 1 through 100. And the 18 people that I put in the painting get a free print, and they're also hand embellished. So 1 through 20, I'm right now going through all of them, hand embellishing each one individually and signing them 1 through 18. And they're going to be shipped all over the world: Sweden, Australia, South Africa, the Netherlands,
how awesome.
Michigan.
Wow.
Yeah. What's the other one? China, and then all over America, the 18 people. But it's going to be sent all over the world. I'm really excited. And I want a picture of everybody holding, their print, and then I'll make a little TikTok about it. But it's a huge project, and I'm doing it absolutely. I'm paying to do it. I'm not even breaking even, and it's totally coming back around, and so many positive things have happened just the second I started making the prints for the painting. Once I finished the painting, the next day I started printing them out, and doing the lithographs and making them. And immediately I got 8 phone calls with good news and, positive energy.
Well, that's good for an artist. Yeah.
That's what it's about. Every time you do something like that, it seems like as I get older, I see it come back immediately. It's so good for people to do what y'all are doing, and to just be like, man, I don't need gasoline in grocery stores. I just need some love and some good connection with the above.
Yeah.
Be fair to people. Best way I can put it.
No, it's hard being an artist. We know. I'm hoping, Boston, I invited you to come up if you want to come up and talk about what you're saying, if you want to talk about Yhwh or any of these things. We're here to talk about it. I'd love to have some guests up here, but I'm trying to see who's even in here. Let's see.
I think Boston's coming up. It looks like somebody is.
I don't know where he's at. I was trying to find him again. I invited him, though. Or he can request.
I think I'm an artist too, but of a different sort. What do you think, child?
I don't know. I don't know. I mean, in some ways, you do a lot of things with machinery, and I get that part. I'm a mechanic myself, so I work on things as well. So I have to say, it is that way in some ways. My artist personality helps me with fabrication and making things work. Putting a car together sometimes can, but
Well, I just built a 1930 Ford Model A, and I literally started with a rusty frame and
So awesome.
started scavenging parts from marketplace and whatnot, and just started creating this thing. And I live in Tennessee, and a fella in Knoxville, south of Knoxville, had a body, and it was in rough shape, but the price was right. So I bought the whole body, and I completely assembled this thing. But I always felt to me like it was a work of art. When I finished it, and it's out in one of the bays in the garage right now, but
totally
yeah.
worth it. You
Thanks,
have to have
man.
an eye for it. Yeah, you have to have an eye for it. I mean, that's an art project to beat the band. That is a great art project.
Thanks, man. I can
You
hardly
get
get my own
vision.
son.
Borderline artist here, but
Yeah, I mean, that was your vision. That was your vision, and you made your
Right.
vision come true. That's what artists
Right.
do. They have a vision.
yeah.
Whether that's a book or a play,
It's-
you know.
It says that
Well, one
Boston
thing
is
I-
up, but I can't hear him. Where is Sorry.
I invited him again. The invite
Oh.
timed out, I
Oh, here he
think.
is. Accept. Here we go.
Okay.
Well, I think people who are artists have this part of their mind, or their thought processes are always, they're thinkers, they're creators, and I don't know, but it appears to me hungry for the truth. And
Yeah. I've definitely been that.
So, yeah, I'm gonna call myself an artist. How's that, guys?
Yeah, we'll allow
Can't
it.
say I agree. But, no, I'm just kidding.
I've seen your curry built. We will allow it.
Thank
I'll
you.
allow it. I'll allow
It
it.
would not be untrue to say you do art, and it would not be untrue to say you are an artist. Furthermore, so, and I think, you know what? One thing is that I tell when I teach class, I tell every class, I don't care if it's a paint and sip, children, advanced acrylic class, whatever.
Mhm.
Everybody, I start the class out, the first class I have, or every new class, everybody in the world, every human being, since we had opposable thumbs and figured out we could grab stuff, whatever, has done art and sang. Every human.
You paint. Do you do
Ever.
graffiti? Do you paint with aerosol and?
I mainly do murals, and then I have my non-commission art, and then I do commission. But I make the bulk of my money for art from selling prints and murals. Is mainly what I do.
Right. Yeah, that's pretty typical, I would think. Right.
Yeah. It's a necessity that I happily deal with. To be able to do art for a living is a blessing, and I'm very lucky to
Yeah,
do
I'm
so.
glad you can do it. I wish I could do it too. I want to try to do it more, but it's not as easy as people think. I'm sticking with cars.
No,
for the time
it's a
being.
horrible career. I highly don't recommend for anyone. But
That's what everybody says.
I want everybody to, I want if there's people that like love art and can do art, that are good at art, but I'm one of those people that I don't have a choice, and I realize that, and it's been very difficult for me. But I don't have a choice. Like, I have to do art for a living. I have to do art. I'm put here to do art. I'm put here to put art in people's
I feel the same. I
homes.
feel the same way.
I
Somebody
can't
wants
not.
to come
I can't
up.
not do it. I will become mentally and then physically ill, literally, very quickly. It's happened. Like, I became mentally and physically ill. It literally made me sick.
When I
So
when
I
I
don't
try
have a
to
choice.
accept
is my
Boston
point.
to come up, it doesn't let me let him come
It
up.
won't. Well, it's not letting him up. I don't know why.
I don't know why.
Because I didn't hit anything that time. I thought, well, maybe we both hit it, but I'll let you do it, and it still
I said
didn't
his
work.
accept though.
Well, I'll tell you what. I've got to go pay attention to my far, far better half, lovely wife.
No, you're fine. Thank you so much for
Yeah,
talking.
Yeah,
and your
we
contributions.
enjoy
It's been
talking to
great.
you
I hope
so
you come back
much.
Yeah,
again.
man.
Do y'all want to see the painting that I did for
Yes.
TikTok?
let's
Yeah,
do it
sure.
real quick.
All right, I'm in my studio right now. I'm gonna go jump downstairs to grab it. Yeah, let me grab the original, and then you'll see the prints. Just give me 1 second.
I will show it to you.
See.
I'll never forget when Nathan was a young man and he told me he wanted to go to art school. And correct me if I'm wrong, but I think the first thing out of my mouth is, "You're going to starve to death."
Yeah. Yeah.
Something to that effect, right?
Yeah, that was pretty close to that.
I'm trying to
What are
remember
you
how to
doing?
put him in the big box for a minute. I don't know how to do it.
Okay.
Turn
Run up
your
and down
camera
ladder.
on.
I said I'm an old man. Let's see. They're all drying, and my studio is dirty, so I apologize.
That's okay. You're on the big screen now.
I
Put
got
your
it.
camera on.
Okay.
Yay! I'm learning.
We are good.
That's right.
Okay. There we go. So I'm
We can't see.
I know I'm flipping the camera. There we go. So
Oh,
I'm in a
there we go.
silo.
Hey.
Hello,
tell us.
Hey,
I'm in a silo on the 4th story, and I have painted the ceiling, the dome ceiling. I'm 4 stories high, and I've remodeled the entire place to be an art studio, and I'm on the top floor, and this is all painted like sky.
Oh,
And
I
cool.
see the spray paint cans.
wow.
Yeah,
Are
yeah,
those
yeah.
old
that's all mine.
Krylons or what are the old Rustos? Yeah.
These are all the prints from the painting that I did. These are all drying right now. This is my work desk where I keep my paint, and I've got the,
Wow, looks so awesson. Yeah, you got a lot of spray paint up there. A lot of
yeah.
Rusto.
yeah,
A lot
and
of
my
94
gallery's
Montana.
downstairs. This is how you get down to the gallery.
Oh,
What?
wow.
Yeah.
That's so cool.
That's wild.
Yeah, I'm
Whoa.
4 stories in the air. There's a window there and a window there. But I've worked for about a year remodeling this place and painting it. But then, well, I'll show you this. So the point of the painting, I do light reactive paintings. I'll make it quick.
Hold on,
I'm not
man.
trying
That's
to
a lot of
take
damn
over
spray
your
Wait a
paint.
life.
second. I do that too. This is crazy. I gotta see this.
Oh,
So-
wow.
That is the painting
wow.
I did for TikTok.
Put the black
So
light
I'm-
on.
Pipe streams.
Yeah,
Yeah.
the
See it
names in
look
here.
like.
That's
This is how I
everybody.
do my paintings too, with the black
Yeah,
light.
looks good.
So
I see that spray paint though. I'm not letting it go.
That's
yeah, no,
groovy.
I've got all the paint you could ever shake a stick at. So here you go. That's
Yup.
black.
Yeah.
All right.
Oh, wow.
I love it.
That's neat.
Smoking.
And then here's no light. That's no light.
That's awesome.
Oh, looks good. I mean,
That's what I do with
my
I've
paintings.
never done nothing like that.
So then the prints, I think it'll show up. Yeah. So the prints, each one's different for each artist that their name's in it, and they get a free print signed and numbered in the color of their name, and then a message on the back. And then I hand embellished each print. So this is for one of my good friends, Sporadic. This is her print.
She a
That's
writer?
no light. Got blue flowers. And it's like an owl butterfly. It's really
Yeah, I like it.
individualized for each
Wow.
artist. I put a clock for my buddy in South Africa
That's
The-
awesome.
because they always cut the power out.
Ah, I see
This is my
that.
friend in the Netherlands that sees like colors in animals and people and then paints them.
Mm.
So I gave her the star with the turtle. This is my friend Evelina in Sweden.
Oh, you got a lot of
Yeah,
friends.
each one
man.
has something like hidden in it.
Wow.
Are you overseas? Are you in Europe?
I'm in this North Carolina in the mountains next to Virginia and Tennessee.
No way.
No.
We're in North Carolina. I'm in North Carolina.
Best friend.
This
Hold
is
on
my
now.
buddy
Do you paint
Heartless right
trains?
here. So you got the hearts
Yeah.
going away from it. But that's pretty much it, man. That is what I do.
No,
That's
I
very
see it. I
neat.
like it.
Yeah, the ceiling
of y'all saw the blue clouds. So I just finished this. I don't even know if it'll show up. Let's see if y'all can see it.
Your studio's unreal, man.
In my studio.
Yeah, this is unreal.
Yeah, that's my studio ceiling. Those blue clouds. Now it's all
I can't see it that well, but
let's see. It's all Starscape and the Milky Way.
Oh, I can tell.
Here.
Yeah, so like the lighted stars. That's cool.
That's it. With no
thank
light.
you so much for sharing it with us.
Which reactive paint are you using?
It's a military issue phosphorus paint.
Yes.
No, you got something.
I know what he's
using.
using.
Exclusive.
Yeah, they use it for the submarines and battleships to paint the way out when there's a power outage. And it's real expensive, but it works really, really well. And I've used it for years. There's a lot of new technology through Montana Paints and Sojo out of Japan that have awesome light reactive stuff, and that's what I like to play with. Is have like 5 paintings in one. That's what I try to do.
Have you ever used Cobra paints, spray paint?
What kind? What'd you say?
Cobra.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah.
I have a whole palette of that in my house.
Yeah, I thought I had a can of it up here.
I love it, man. It's 100% acrylic.
Colors,
it's
man. Yeah, I swear I have a couple cans of that somewhere.
No, man. Yeah, hold on. I gotta ask you though, because I'm into graffiti. I know you're into graffiti. So like, I don't
really like graffiti. I like to get paid for the artwork that I do, and also
yeah. But you say that, but okay. If you're in the mountain, you're near Asheville, right?
Yes, unfortunately. I'm sorry. Did I say that loud?
No. I know. You know Mom's Crew?
Yes. Yes, of course I do.
Yeah, I know a little bit. I know a little bit.
I lived in Asheville for 2 years. So yeah, my mom's well. I've seen her everywhere.
Mom's pretty well. That's so cool. That's so interesting that you know what we're talking about. But we also come from different backgrounds. I painted graffiti for a long time, so I just was interested. I painted trains for a long time too. So
that's awesome.
I see all the
you gave so many people a free art show, and they'll never really, even if they don't realize what you gave them.
They don't even appreciate.
They weren't just
you're putting the hours in a train yard somewhere.
Free art show. I love it when a train goes by. I love it. I love graffiti. But I don't like people getting in trouble for doing art.
Yeah, and I got in big trouble, so I get it. Like,
I don't like vandalism, and
I get it.
The coolest thing when I did a mural in Philly was their what do you call it? When you get in trouble and oh my gosh, community service, whatever. If somebody got in trouble for graffiti, they would have their community service be working for the mural companies, the huge mural companies in Philly.
Right, they try to put your work to use.
And it rehabilitated this kid that I worked with 20 years ago. Like this is 15, 20 years ago. Mom was a crackhead, dad was unalived.
That's big with these graffiti kids, man. They have some horrible upbringings. Like I try to reach out.
This kid worked for this company, and he still works for this company to this day. And he has 2 kids, and he's making good money, and he does art. I'm like, dude, your graffiti's so good, man. Like you can do this. And I'm not saying I was the reason, but like I met him because of the rehabilitation. That was their community service. And it worked, and he's worked for this mural company. It's like one of my favorite stories in the world, especially for art. Like that's kid. Like and I'm afraid he's on TikTok. I mean, I'll send you all his stuff. He's awesome artist.
Send it to me. I always want to try to follow in that way.
He is brilliant. You would love it. Y'all would love it. But I appreciate y'all taking the time.
Yeah, absolutely, man. Thank you so much for showing the studio. It's sick.
I'll definitely be keeping up with y'all. I'm going to work on her. I'm going to finish her.
Go ahead. Work on your paintings. Go to
bed. I'm going to bed.
Yeah. Thank
Have
you
a good
so
evening.
much. Thank you.
Thanks for coming in.
Y'all too.
It was so great talking to you.
You too.
I'm sorry I had to try to pry a little bit about the graffiti.
Thanks, Emily. Thanks for being here.
What are the chances?
Eileen's got to go. She was saying.
Good night.
Yeah, Bella, this is Pap is my dad. You're asking me that.
Excuse me, that
Night,
ceiling
Sally.
in the silo.
We love you too.
Yep, night, Sally. Oh, that was interesting. I thoroughly enjoyed that. You never know what's going to pop up in the room.
No, you don't. But for me, I just was seeing that, and I'm like, goodness, this is another person so similar to me that gets it. I want to know more about it, but I know people that paint, and they got all that spray paint up there, like them cans up there, like they were. When you have them vintage cans and things like that, I'm like, nah, I know you've been doing this. I'm like, nobody that don't do this don't have stuff like that in their studio. Yeah, I was like, oh no, I knew he was gonna know who Mom's Crew was and all them people, and like, okay, yeah, you know what it is. He knew. But it's great that he sees Yahweh and the Father. I mean, gosh, it's just.
I know, it's
awesome.
amazing. That's like, 3 people this week we've met that are seeing this.
Yes.
You know?
Yeah.
Yeah, and actually talking about it.
You know, you got to step outside the box of, traditional. Wow, it's hard for people to do. It's hard for me to do. And, but if somebody would just look in the mirror every morning and just say, Father, show me the truth.
Man, Boston Cat is still trying to come up, and I cannot accept him.
I wonder what's going on, why that won't go through.
I don't know.
Let me try this time. Let's see.
Is he your friend?
Nah, I could try to friend him. Let me see.
I don't see him now. He was on here.
Either he was on here.
He might be falling off. He may have a bad connection.
You want me to be quiet? I'm gonna follow you. I don't know. Every time it like blips the live. Yeah, the Gnostic text things. Yeah, I would like to talk about it with you too. Gosh, I wanna say something to this guy. Oh well, I don't know.
Did Vic leave? He must have.
Yeah,
Oh, there
he's
he
got
is.
Bad signal.
Good night, Vic.
Good night. Well, the live is kind of dying down a little bit. I wanted more people to come and talk. I still have some energy. Everybody just agreed tonight. We didn't even have barely had anybody not agreeing.
Well, I mean, if you want somebody to disagree, you'd have to go to a different live.
Probably. Last night people came in and they were like, I disagree. I was like, okay. So we had this Jewish guy in here last night, and it was like, okay. And we were just asking him things about just basic elementary Jewish understanding. And he's like, I don't know what that is. I don't know what the... You remember going on? We were like, okay, so like the Tanakh and things. Like, what's the Tanakh? And I'm like, are you Jewish? Like, are you trolling? Like, what do you mean? What do you mean you don't know these things? Well, I'm new to it, or what? I'm like, I don't want to be disrespectful to nobody, but it was like, what do you know? Where are you at? I couldn't even gauge where he was at to have a conversation. And he's like, oh, I'm watching the game right now. I'm stocks. He's just in all these worldly things. And I'm like, well, maybe bounce out of that and think about something different. I don't know what to tell you, bro. I don't know. I want someone to come up.
You know what I'd like to try to figure out is why is it that now Yahweh can't attack us like he did before? Does that make sense? Like I know
like after everything that had happened, why don't we have these like interactions like they're talking about before, right?
Yes, exactly.
Right. I've thought about that. Something must have happened. But there's a very big explosion of art and expression, how people wanted to put things into the world. I think people were scared to do that before because after Jesus came, we see a massive explosion of art. So that's interesting to me.
Yeah, I hadn't even thought about that, but that's true.
I mean, it just, where is all that amazing art before he came? It's like after he came, it's like, wow, we're just seeing it like on a totally extra new level that we'd never even seen before. I mean, they were good right off the bat, pretty much.
The other thing is too is art doesn't lie.
Yeah,
they can't really
look at the
alter the art. Yeah,
it
tells the story.
Agree with you.
There's true history in the art if you really study it and look at it closely. It gives a lot away.
Well, that's true. That like seeing the horns on the Westminster that Nathan just took pictures of. It's like you can't. That doesn't go away.
I think
they
that's
got
why
all the representations up there with horns.
Yeah, and I think that's why they're trying to do away with those churches.
I think so too, but it's like, how long have those been up there with those depictions? People have looked at that for hundreds of years.
But are they really looking at it? That's the thing.
Yeah, probably not. They couldn't even read or write. Maybe
even if you go into like the local cathedrals near your house or whatever, the churches around your house, look at the ceilings, look at the art. It's telling a story.
It is. I agree. Even here in Raleigh, even here in a lot of the older cathedrals from the 1800s, you're going to see it.
Things are probably winding down some, Nate, because it's the middle of the week.
Yeah.
People have to go to work tomorrow and all. But
I could try. I could try to jump in someone's live here. I still got a little bit of energy. But gosh, man, no more Hebrew Israelites. I think I'm done with that.
That was pretty bad, wasn't it?
Golly, man. Oh, it was so bad. That was horrible last night. I was like, well, this isn't working. Let's just do our own thing. I mean, they just didn't even, they were like letting you talk just enough to just push their points. And it's like, yeah, there's no room here. Nobody's trying to learn anything. You're just so stuck. Oh, why don't you follow Torah? Why don't you follow this? And it's like, this is evil, guys. Like, come on. They don't want to see that though.
Well, that's like not naming another host's name to another channel. He's always like, why don't you just come on up in here? Why? So you can scream at me and tell me that I'm wrong? He doesn't want to hear it. Yeah, like he don't even want to hear out your point. He won't even let you finish your points. Like, forget it. I'm not even going to entertain you.
Yeah. Yeah, it's just yeah.
I know exactly who you're talking about because he does it to me too.
Yeah. Yep.
There was one guy tried to come in last night and he was trying to come up and I was like, no, nope, no. And just seeing you be, and it's a lot of these guys on here, when you follow them for even just a little bit, you see they just got all these different opinions that are changing their mind all the time. They don't know where they're at and then they just want to argue. And it's like, man, how can you, I don't want to argue with somebody who don't even know what they're even thinking. Like, you can't even explain what you believe or what you think, but you're jumping in lives and hosting lives just, inciting people. You're trying to incite argument and disruption.
Yeah.
What are you doing?
It speaks volumes when people like are double-minded, and they're constantly flip-flopping and they can't.
Yeah, because they're emulating their father Yahweh.
Yep.
If you think that Yahweh is really God and he's dualistic in nature, what do you think you're gonna do? How do you think you're gonna act and walk around and do things? So I get it. I mean, nobody's perfect, but
No.
I mean, I'm definitely not, but it's just still like I want to speak the truth. I still want to talk about things that matter.
Yeah.
I know. Boston was requesting I hit accept again.
Gosh, man,
I don't know what's
wanted
going
to
on with
come
his. Everybody else has come up easy. We just hit it.
I know. I've tried to accept them again, and it's still just nothing. I mean, we could try to reboot the live if you really want to, but nah,
It'll do that if he's got you guys blocked or if he's got one of your profiles blocked.
I don't know what it is.
Does that make sense?
I don't know if that's the case, though.
It might do that too if he's on private.
Mm-hmm.
Because a lot of times if they're on private, they have a hard time getting up on a live.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm going to get off here, guys.
Yeah. It's winding down.
Yeah, I think we should call it. And then we can do another one this week.
Sure.
I mean, we've had a good time. I've enjoyed this.
Yeah, I've been enjoying it too.
Meeting people and, and getting to share about Father. It's all great.
Yeah, it's been pretty good. We have such warm reception the past few times. I'm like, okay, there's more people getting it. No, Boston, we're not saying that you blocked anybody. I don't know why we can't let you up or really want you to come up.
We can't get it to stick and take through.
Yeah.
I'm going to call it, guys. I hope everybody has a good night and love everybody. Thank you for joining too, Bella.
No problem. You guys have a good night.
Yeah.
You too. Night.
Good night.